So this is something that I read, written by one of my classmates, and I found it interesting. Why this recession is probably likely to be deeper, harsher, longer than ever before. A couple of points he made. He said, "Look, we are going to. This is not a recessionary trough and bounce back. This is a collapse and rebuild, and it's a very serious aspect of this whole thing. This is a nice collapse, and after which we rebuild." And so the economy was functioning at a certain level, and then it crashes to zero. This hardly ever happens in a recession. And so we've had 3 to 4 weeks of only absolute essentials in terms of economic activity, right? And the bounce back is going to be prevented in the short term, because we'll still have social distancing, we'll still have people worried, we're worrying about a recurrence. We won't have a vaccine this quickly, and so we will still say international travel has to be monitored. We'll still worry about foreign shipments. We'll still worry about events linked industries. So you're worried about watching IPL matches. You're worried about going to big concerts. You're worrying about going to giant religious institutions. All of those are going to be factors for a good 5-6 months after lockdown ends. I mean, almost all countries are debating this. US is, Spain is, Italy is. They've all crashed the economy reasonably well, but they have not yet figured out the best way forward for reviving it back. When New York is actually thinking they'll give badges. They'll give badges for people who have already got COVID and they're autoimmune. They're automatically immune, so they can come back. But that will be like ghettoizing people. There's haves and have-nots. The guys who have had the virus will rule the roost. Then that's not politically correct. The democracy, as I said, that's an issue. Right. So saying one part of the economy will function, who have not yet got it, you will still be in quarantine. It's tougher to monitor, tougher to check. You have to continuously keep checking and monitoring. That's a nightmare. So we're going to have some form of limited activity for a while. And so especially for a country like India, where communal living is very common, we'll have a migrant worker problem. Migrant workers are raring to go back to their places. And if I'm the simple logic being, if I'm screwed over, I might as well be screwed over at home. I cannot afford to live in Mumbai without a salary. But if I have to be in my village, I'll live. And so they're desperate to go back. These kind of, if they spend 6 weeks in Mumbai struggling for food, and then they go back to their village, there is a scar that is there. You're not going to jump back and come back. And so right about the time the social distancing norms get eased and come back could be the time where you're into holiday season and Diwali and all that. So there could be a further delay. We could have limited economic activity for 5, 6, 7 months. I'm convinced that India is resilient. I think we'll bounce back. I think next year will be fine. I think somewhere we'll find a combination, a cocktail of drugs that works for it. Social distancing already seems to be working. We will have this control. Bunch of industries will struggle. We're taking such a huge hit that the bounce back is not going to be easy. But capacity build, everything. This is going to be a deep one-shot hit with a nice medium-term impact. Fine. So, but the pain is not going to be just 2 months, 3 months long. It's going to be 2 months before we come back to some form of economic activity, and a further 5-6 months before we come back to something resembling normalcy. Schools that deal with little children, they're going to have a nightmare of a decision about resuming action in June. If we're running a school, I'll have all kinds of plan B, plan C, plan D to say, look, everyone below 5th standard don't come here. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, we'll run half classes for 1 week, another half for the other week. I want you guys to sit one per table. Then we'll give most of the stuff online. I'll teach them in class how to do the online stuff. I'll ask parents to accompany kids just so that they can learn the tech. But I will not have a full-fledged schools. Our schools are communal hotspots. And so not religious communal, community living communal. Fine. So let's not go on digging some other controversy randomly here. They're hotspots because kids, when I have a son who's 11, he cannot have a conversation with his friend without putting his arm over or giving a high five or running together and jostling and being young boys. And so that's the giant hub for transmission. So schools will have to be ultra careful, so will have to be colleges, so public transportation. Our Mumbai local train, you start resuming life, then Mumbai local will just can just destroy a locality if there is even 1% of the population, 0.1% have some remnant of the virus. It can destroy the whole zone. Fine. So our recovery from this has to be very measured, very careful, well thought out, slow, planned, with reams and reams and layers of social distancing played out. So we're going to say essential services, little more than essential services, then alternate 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out for large corporates, work from home as a practice, as a habit, only meetings in office, all of that. And so it's going to be another 6 months from the time lockdown ends before anything resembling normalcy comes. If you're talking about the academic year, this year is bust. 2020-21 academic year for schools is bust. Colleges will manage, but schools are going to struggle. And young kids, you can't monitor them. You can't tell them don't talk to your friend. You can't tell them you've got to be quarantined. You need to be careful. None of that will work. And so that is going to be an issue. Right. The chart clearly says that if we come out by end of May, then mid-May to June, July to September, October to November, we'll keep taking steps up. But even 6 months from now, we are not back to pre-lockdown levels. It ain't happening. And that's a forecast the lovely enthusiastic Sudarshan Gangrade has put in. And I'm with him. I'm worried about resumption of activity. I think all essentials will come back, but economic activity is going to take a 6-month hit. And so that is something that we all have to factor in. The some industries are going to have a medium term impact. Airlines are going to struggle. I would worry about tourism. I'll worry about transport. I'll worry about restaurants. I'll worry about even public transport. And so commutes, IPLs, concerts, anything where a bunch of people coming together is essential to the functioning. There's going to be a scar. Those of you who are raring to go out now, you'll be less raring to go out when you can actually go out. And likely that you're all 24, 25, 26, 27 and it's not doesn't bother you. But I can tell you the guys upwards of 55, 57, it's going to leave a deeper impression on them. They're going to basically just say, look, chuck it, I'm not going to a mall for the next 2 years. I'm not going to make that fancy trip to Dubai. God knows what's happening in the Middle East. I worry even about Singapore. What if something happens and I get locked down there? So the impact of spending 4, 5, 6 months locked down in some form or restricted in some form is going to have a certain impact on several industries. So that is an issue. So you have to account for that. And so all of us are in it for the long term. So we'll have to accept that these industries are going to get decimated. Our behavior will change. Behaviors change during recessions. Behaviors change more during deeper recessions. These kind of pandemic, pan-geographic, global, event-led recessions will leave serious psychological impressions. It will happen. And so we'll have to accept that it will happen. We'll have to realize that we'll also have it. We're not going to be subconsciously the kind of decision that we'll make. See, we're all become very conscious to somebody coughing and sneezing generally. So imagine this: you go out and it's October. You're back to office. You're going on an Uber, and you go on a Uber share. You go on Uber share. The guy who's sitting next to you coughs. Next day, you're thinking, do we really need to go on Uber share? I can shift out. Either I take my own vehicle, or I go on Uber, or I take the office bus. But I'm not doing Uber share anymore. If a bunch of people completely stay away from Uber share, then Uber starts struggling. So the behavioral impacts can spiral out. You can very easily have linked effects over and over again, layer after layer. So this is we've not yet started worrying about, okay, what are we going to do for 6 months of reduced social distancing? I'm worried. I'm an entrepreneur, so I know that at some level we have to keep the show going. And so there's a bunch of activities that we got lined up. Our business is online, so luckily enough, we are among the least affected directly. Fine, but our output is affected. The people who are consuming what we have already done, because it's a product that's not affected. But we have a product pipeline for 3 other product launches. We're doing a freakishly ambitious product for school kids for mathematics. We've been working on for 2.5, 3 years, scheduled to get launched in May. I don't know, maybe we'll launch it in June, but I'm not speaking to the guys, I'm not interacting with them, I'm not collaborating. So bunch of things are getting affected, and that affects our forecast revenues. So now I'll be iffy about new recruitment. I was very punchy, very aggressive, very gung-ho and enthusiastic 4 months ago, 3 months ago. Now whoever we have not got recruited and put on board, we're going to put everything on hold till we don't even have an office. How do I recruit? So our office would have had a 50% or 40% increase in headcount. Now it's not going to have that till October, November. That's an issue. And so these kind of issues are going to be there across the board and deeper in some specific industries. And so now this is the economy and what should the MBA decision. So if you're doing preparing for CAT, no brainer. Put your head down, prepare for CAT, prepare intensely for CAT, because there's going to be a bunch of people who have a lot of time on their hands and are preparing really sharp. And so if people have time, that's going to make an impact. Fine.